Jordan, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks. So question about flood insurance. So first of all, would you recommend totally staying away from any property that's in, for example, an AE flood zone? And if the answer is no, not per se stay away from them, but just be aware of the extra cost of insurance, do you have like a ballpark way to estimate the amount of insurance before actually contacting an insurance agency and asking them?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first part, I used to take a perhaps harder stance on this and just tell people, steer away from flood zones. But it really depends on what you're investing in. I have investors who buy nothing but Class A properties on the beach, and for long-term rentals, not even doing short-term Airbnb type stuff. And sure, they have to pay for flood insurance, but those Class A properties on the beach also rent at a premium, and they're never vacant. And so I would not automatically say never buy a property in a flood zone. The answer is, as you alluded to, make sure you factor in the cost of the flood insurance. Unfortunately, it's really hard to generalize the cost of flood insurance because so much of it is based on elevation. And usually the first thing your insurance agent is going to ask you is, do you have an elevation certificate? And the other thing about flood insurance is it's very standardized in terms of prices. Allstate is going to give you the exact same price as, whatever other insurance agency that you go through, because it's all federally subsidized. So they can sometimes give you a quote, but they'll say, hey, this is kind of a worst case scenario. If you get me an elevation certificate that shows that basically that it's higher above base flood elevation, then the premium could go down, significantly. And so the Cadillac answer is get an elevation certificate either from the seller, or I've had people pay a surveyor to go out and get an elevation certificate just so they could be sure about the cost of flood insurance. So elevation certificate and an actual quote is the the best answer you can achieve. But otherwise, I would say that it's probably going to be somewhere between 2 to 3% of the purchase price on an annual basis is maybe a range. But there's so many different variables that I'm almost hesitant to even throw out a number. And I would say that's probably the same for homeowners insurance. It might be 2 or 3% of the purchase price as an annual premium. And then you have to add flood insurance on top of that as an additional expense. And that's why it hurts so much. But if the numbers work, the numbers work. Whether it's, insurance or utilities or, whatever that expense may be, it really only matters as a factor of how much income does the property produce and what's the bottom line in terms of the net